when we were both in exile in San Diego, California. She showed up for to serve her sentence teaching there, and suddenly there was a poetry community at UC San Diego. Like everybody for whom poetry was connected with anything urgent in life seemed to flock around her, and there were events and enthusiasms and stuff that had been sorely missing. And that accords, I think, with her writing in general, in which writing seems like a crucial life or death issue, and in which being a self it seems like the process of cracking itself open to the world. And the fractures have all kinds of fascinating shapes and sizes. It's obviously time for me to stop talking. Please welcome Eileen Myles.
Thank Andy, thank Louis, and Anna, who I've known in many different locations, and I knew we were reading together, and then suddenly we see each other. It was like, it's you, it's us, and I love your reading, so this is great. And I've read it Project Lodge before, so it's great to be back, and I like Madison. And if you like my reading, maybe you want to give me a ride to Milwaukee. So I have this novel, and so it's called Infernal Poet's Novel, and what it is at some point in time, I think I was trying to explain what it was that I was doing as a writer, as one who writes poetry and fiction. And my fiction always has a narrator named Eileen Myles, and often when I was trying to get work published, editors would say, well, who is she? You know, meaning if you use your own name, then obviously you're either a celebrity that we already know, or you're somebody that something horrible happened to many years ago, like she's the little girl that fell down the well. What happened after that, you know? And so I thought, well, I'll fix that problem by writing a novel about being a poet, so then somebody could say, when they say, who is she? It's like, she's the poet Eileen Myles. But usually when I deal with a problem, that ceases to be the problem, and the problem moves someplace else. But still answering that question gave me a book, and so the book starts when the narrator is a young college student in Boston. So I'm going to skip around. I used Dante. I sort of hung my poet narrative on the Inferno. So the first 100 pages is about the hell of being a female poet. The second 100 pages is purgatory, which is the career of the poet. And the third 100 pages is heaven, which is writing a poem or being a lesbian, depending on where you come in. So I'm going to read a little bit of each of those. And greatly, it's sort of the character that I talk about in the beginning. We've become friends again, and it's so wonderful to write about somebody so graphically, and for them to love it years later. Because it turned out that, well, I'll tell you this later. My English professor's ass was so beautiful. It was perfect and full as she stood at the board writing some important word, reality or perhaps illusion. She opened the door. With each movement, her arms and her hand delicately but forcefully inscribing the letters intended for her eyes, her ass shook ever so slightly. I had never learned from a woman with a body before. Something slow, horrible, and glowing was happening inside me. I stood on the foothills to heaven. She opened the door. There were a bunch of us in Eva Nelson's world literature class who had gone to Catholic school. Nobody was that different. 18-year-old kids who had grown up going to the Blessing of the Fleet, hooting and drinking beer, who went to Sacred Heart, who played against Our Lady. Hardly anyone in the class was really that different. Everyone, it seemed to me, lived in a roughly Catholic world. But those of us who knew nothing else, we were especially visible. When we had a thought, an exciting thought, we'd go, "Sst, sst," like a batch of little snakes. We meant, sister, sister, pay attention to me, call me now. Eva Nelson had been reading Pirandello. We're really considering here, and now she faced us with her wonderful breasts. I know when a woman, when she's teaching school, begins to acquire a wardrobe that is slightly different from her daily self, how she exposes herself to the world. For instance, later in the semester, I went to a party at her house in Cambridge, and she sat on her couch in her husband's shirt. He was a handsome and distant young man named Gary. He was the Nelson, and she wore his shirt, and you couldn't really see her breast at all, but she had a collection of little jerseys tan and peach, pale gold, and one was really white, I think. Generally, she dressed in sun tones, nothing cool, nothing blue, nothing like the eerie parts of the sky, but the hot and distant tones of the sun, and her breasts were in front of me. I was looking at her face, and I knew I was alive. On television, in my favorite shows, I'd already begun to see how things could be slightly different, or utterly different, like a man could flip his daily quarter towards a newsstand, and it would land, just because it jounced against all the other shiny coins, and it landed on its edge. And all that day, the man could hear the thoughts of people on the street, his wife and his secretary, even his dog. It was crazy, and the next morning, he threw the coin again. "Hey," said the regular Joe, who sold him the paper every day, "some guy did that yesterday," and I thought, "Hey, you're that guy." The two guys' faces, really human faces, got big, and the music you never noticed till now, the music stopped playing. "Hey, you're that guy." "Yeah, it's me." There was something really covered about childhood. I think it was the nuns, with their pint of ice cream hats and the black, thick flowing cloth that grazed the surface of the schoolyard and the oiled wood floors of my school. The nuns enclosed the world with sanity and God. The rules flowed up and down the calendar, around the clock, and in the day, the sky. The world was rules known by God, the nuns said. Eva Nelson had fantastic breasts. It jounced in her explanation of modernity, of no way out, of vagueness, of the burden of insecurity and the possibility of something else. That this could be a dream, all of it. If the flip of a coin could release a torrent of multi-vocal glee, or maybe it was a dream. We didn't know. We couldn't. This is our condition. The next book we will read, she said, pulling the shade on existentialism for the moment, is much older text. It's part of the tradition, but it's a very modern book, quite political. She had this cute glint when she was being smart, which was always. She wasn't big smart. She didn't clobber you with words. She just kind of befriended us like wolves. But she believed that wolves were good and could be taught too. But she was from New York, was Jewish, and had been born intelligent. She was blonde. Are Jews blonde? I didn't know. I would learn so much more. Sometimes her jersey was nearly green, but that was as dark as it got. Dante really had no other way to talk about his time except in a poem. The Inferno was a heavily coded poem. It's not about censorship, but something else. It was an age not even of satire, but allegory. His beliefs were fixed in the structure of his poem like the windows of a church. Her eyes twinkled. "Oh my God." And I'll give you a clue. She paused while she spoke so that each phrase could catch up on our thought. It wasn't like she thought we were dumb. I could feel her eyes meeting mine. "You're not dumb, Eileen." She knew me. And this is the best moment of all. Before any of the incidents that would change my life irrevocably, I felt she already knew me. I sat in a class on Columbus Ave in the Slaughter Tea building in Boston on a Tuesday afternoon, and I was seen. Before words, before anything. She would pause and let the words catch up. We had time. "I want each of you to write an inferno." The class groaned. "It's just his time. This is yours," she smiled. It was ours now. I would show her my hell. I'll go a little further.